Guy was here, I would go into the Rambam and Tefillah, but I don't know where he's at. His name's Nasi. He's out of New York. He's a pretty nice guy. We didn't know each other. But yeah, but the thing is saying so the Ram call is like I mean I'm saying it's such a massive revolution in terms of what he's teaching. You know, it's like unreal, like what he's teaching on a lot of levels. And so I don't know. So I was going to teach Mishnah Torah, but if it's just me and you right now, we might as well just jump back into our baby. So yeah, so that's the thing. That's the thing that the Ram calls brought for me is like it's like specific like details of like this connects to this, this connects to that. Like he's just going so clear. So I could just like stand up and I could the same way someone could quote their favorite rapper. You know what I'm saying? I could. And it's like if you don't have like the rum call in this, what? Okay, hold on. So like for example, like with show 'em. So like for example, like like with like say Tu Bishvat, right? So we talk about the different levels of fruits, right? And the different levels of fruits, and we compare them to the different worlds, right? And as we eat these fruits and we have certain intentions, we could correct those worlds that we potentially may have made blemishes on through our behavior, type of a thing. And so like that idea, it seems like like most people could teach it. Oh, well, this connects to the world of Asya, this connects to the world of Yitzira, the world of, Bria, whatever. And so like a lot of people could go into that, but like, how were these worlds created? How were they built on top of each other? Why were they existed? And it's like giving that perspective is like, it's a huge concept. You know what I'm saying? It's a huge concept. And it's just something that if I asked you guys, you will be able to give a basic comprehensive understanding of because of how we're learning by the Ram call. You'll give a basic understanding how the Insoft came and or the Insoft and then the dynamic of the letters going through or the filter of those lights going through 22 chambers. We call them letters forming into forming into words. Those words compiling together, becoming what we know as the Torah and Shemaim. The Torah and Shemaim being the basis of the structure of the physical Simsun. And in the Simsun, you have this dynamic of spheros, and you have the spheres, but then there's a dynamic of the opposite created within the spheres, and then the spheres. So when you're, and not that I even had to go in that detail, right? I sent it to you in that share. Not that, and these guys are knowledgeable guys. Like these are like STOM guys. These are like really serious, like high level. Hold on, let me take out my note. Like serious guys, right? And so I'm saying ideas of them, and you can hear a pin drop because of the clarity in it. And then I hear other rabbis because the place that I'm teaching at, there's like tons of rabbis coming through there, like top notch, high level guys from all backgrounds. That's the type of thing. When I say all backgrounds, like you have guys with Chabad, you have guys who are Yeshivish Lumdish, you have this particular type of Yeshivish Lumdish, you have people who are Kabbalistic, people by Shlomo Carlbach, all these different types of characters in the rabbis, and they're very high level guys, and all the guys are like elders. You know what I'm saying? And so they're sitting there because those clarity points, and that's the gift of the Ramchal, is like his whole point was correcting things that people misunderstood by the teachings of the Ari. That was his whole point of the Sefer. So in order to correct those things, he had to bring it in such a point of clarity that you could understand how people misunderstood it. So like little things, like people say things. A lot of times people teach, you see people teach, and it's like, and I watch because I learn from other people, other rabbis. Like I sit back and I sit and listen to what people are actually saying, right? And
And one of the things on that point is like, a lot of people aren't necessarily clear. You know what I mean? They have concepts and they could put together a concept and this concept and this concept and put it into a formative thing, but they don't really know how it works together. They just saying, like I asked a guy, like it's rabbi, like, today I was asking him, he started this whole premise of like love, right? And this and not loving the neighbor, this. And I asked him, like, what does love mean? Because this guy's a Chabad guy. He's a Chabad rabbi and he's teaching out of the Tanya. And I'm saying, so what is love? Like just a basic question. Like, what is love? Like from the perspective, and I said, I'm asking because I want to be able to be a part of where you're trying to take us. He couldn't really give an answer to what love is, right? And so it's like, and it's not a diss towards him. He's a very like high level guy, but these small points that are huge points, you will notice a lot of people are just kind of gloss over them. And then his response was, well, what do you think love it? You know what I mean? Like, and he said, have you ever felt love in your life? This is what he asked me, right? He tries to turn it on me. And I'm like, I feel love right now. You know what I mean? So it just, the point is saying love from a Torah perspective, the word ahava, right? The root word of is hav, right? Which is to give. So the idea of love is this idea of giving, right? So if I understood his sheer from that perspective, then I don't know how well it matches, right? So it's just saying that, like, and it's not. I'm not a guy who's criticizing a lot of people, and it's just like, so these points of clarity is that, and the problem is a lot of people, they get stuck in a particular school of thought. Like they're like, okay, I learned by the Arizal and that's it, or I learned by this person, that's it. And it's just like, I get it, but is that Torah Kula? Oh, well, I don't care about Torah Kula. I care about this is the Rav I connect with. I resonates with my soul. It makes the most sense. But like, how clear do you understand this? Have you like learned objective perspectives around the way that we understand it? You know what I mean? So that's where I'm at. You know what I mean? I'm a guy who is a student of the text. And the thing by me is like I teach out of the text. You know what I'm saying? Like some people, they just, they may bring a text, read a little parsha, a little of this, but I'm teaching the text. Why? Because that's what my rabbis did. They taught the text. They left me the text, right? So the text is where you're going to build your own understanding, your own adventure, right? So a lot of other people you'll see, like you see, right, they say a few words, they have the book in front of them, the whole thing, and they'll say a few words, maybe read some words in Hebrew for you, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of them are going on their own perspective, right? And I get that. That's like, that's like a sheer, you could go, I mean, you could get, I mean, I get you could get that perspective, but in yeshiva, a proper yeshiva, your rabbi's in the text. He's not saying follow me. He's saying I'm passing on a tradition. Right. So for me, like that's the objective is to pass a tradition of learning, not to follow me. Now, oh my God, Rabbi Mordecai Yosef is wow. Wow. Did you hear what he said? Whoa. I have those moments on a podcast where I'll talk and kind of give a perspective, right? But the reality is, it's like that's not my job as a rabbi. My job as a rabbi is to transmit the tradition, right? And that's the way I was taught. Other people have other things. They want followers. They want people to follow them. For me, the less people I have, the less pressure it is. When you have students and people are looking to you for answers and bouncing things off you, you got to make sure you are available and you're there and you're praying for them and you're praying for their success. So for me, it's a very deep, intimate thing, right? That's why before OT now, like, yeah, I taught all over the place, even India, all these different places. But were they actually my students or were they like people that came in, we have a weekly class or, bi-weekly situation, whatever it is. I mean, do I know what's going on in their personal? Okay, maybe they bring it up, in a class or something, but in general, no. So that was the Otino revolution was just like, okay, now like I'm engaged with a person in their life and they have a family and they have different you know what I mean? His father passed away in blessed memory, right like a little bit after we started learning together. You know what I mean? So it was just like that was a big shift for me, in terms of my own personal development because, it's a big responsibility. So I'm not like out like, surfing for soup. If somebody comes to me and they're like, hey, I like what you're saying. Yeah, I want to learn with you, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's it. That's it. Let's go. Let's go. You know what I mean? And that's it. But in general, that's not really my thing, right? Because it's like there's so many other concepts that I want to be involved in with Torah, right? You see me writing a lot of foreign policy stuff. Like I'm trying to bring Torah as a basis of discussion of situations in the world. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a situation, where how does this apply? Because I see everything as the Torah. Everything that happens in the world is an expression of Torah, right? So we have to match it. So like if we're dealing with issues where like millions of people and hundreds of millions of people's lives are at risk or protected or whatever the situation is, if we're dealing with that type of a thing, then it's like um that's a big deal. Why is Torah not in that discussion? Why is Torah in the after effect? That after there's a war or after, something happens, then we're like, oh well, this is a very holy thing. No, Torah needs to be in the middle of every discussion that involves people's lives, right? Whether you're Jewish, Christian, Muslim, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You're atheist, right? It doesn't matter. The Torah has to be a part of that discussion. So I'm very big on that. And I worked in the corporate world, as you guys know, and I even participated in politics, right? So now like I'm like kind of like out of the, I'm out of the tunnel, in a way, because I've been like just learning like in a cave almost for like almost a decade, right? And just dealing with that and just every day just trying to get more clear. I mean, still doing that, but now it's like me teaching at this yeshiva in the Old City is a really big deal for me because before I was just like, I mean, when I was married, I was, teaching all over the place, but it was still kind of like I was working with organizations, like, teaching at singles events and these types of things, you know what I mean? Shabbatones, these type of things. But this is like a proper mainstream yeshiva, right? And the thing I like about it is like I don't have to like wear black and white. Like if I was going to teach at a place like Or Sameach or some of these other places, I could. I'm with those young guys. I am strong. I'm the coolest guy they're ever going to meet in their life. Is teaching Gemara, right? But that's not what I want to do, right? I don't want to do that. I'm not. I don't want to. I mean, I get it. I would do it. Like I mean, young guys they reach out to me. They come by my apartment. They chill. We talk toward life. Type of things. So we have that dynamic. That dynamic exists, right? But that's like I see myself involved in Hollywood. I see myself involved in mainstream politics. I see myself involved in financial institutions and trying to make those connections, bring people together, create opportunities for kedusha. So that's where my head's at, right? I'm on like world train again. Like I was, my initial training was by the Rav Berg, right? So that's my worldview, fixing the world. Like he was putting Zohars all over the world. That's what he was trying to do. So that's what he did. And so that's my mindset. So anyways, it just, but the point is me teaching at this yeshiva now, it really advances my whole dynamic, meaning that meaning that um meaning that like as a rabbi, a lot of people are like, oh, so like where your rabbi at, right? So I don't have a shul, right? I don't. Last thing I wanted is a shul, and and I'm teaching mostly online. I mean, different places in the world, different types of things, whatever. And I've worked with organizations, but still, like when people want to like when people want to hate on you, they try to make that a thing. Like, oh, so where are you at? Oh, I'm teaching online. And, oh, yeah, you're online. But so me teaching at a mainstream yeshiva where I don't have to wear black and white every day and a hat and this type of a thing is a huge thing because that's not what I want to go back into. I did that for like several years and here in Israel, and it was huge. I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but I just want to, I want to be free. You know what I'm saying? I want to be free. I want to be able to, um, do the things that are meaningful to me on my journey. I don't want no one else to dictate my journey. Like me going to the Temple Mount, it's a very taboo thing, right? And a lot of places would not let me teach there because of that factor. They'd be like, "Oh no, this guy goes to Temple Mount." Blah, blah, blah. God forbid other people learn from them and then maybe they do the same. You know what I mean? This type of thing. But I don't care. Like I don't care. Like I was just debating, and we're gonna go in the Rob call in a minute. But I was talking to a group, like this, group. Like I said, I get into a lot of these debates on social media platforms, specifically like things like Clubhouse, because I have a lot of ideas, social concepts, and so I go into these rooms and I really bring these ideas to people who are totally against them. So like I talk to pro-Palestinian people, I talk to like the One West, Hebrew Israelite type groups are also on there, and then there's also like very liberal um, African Americans, like very liberal, right? Meaning that like they're quasi LGBTQ. I'm not saying I'm not declaring war on anybody. I'm just saying the ideas that I have are very different than their perception of reality. But I need those people because I need to bounce my ideas off those people and hear all the arguments against everything I'm saying. And then I use those arguments against what I'm saying to make my perspective better, right? So one of the things like this these like very liberal African American girls like have the Kamala Harris supporters, right? So when anytime you talk about American dominance, American expansion, there's a pushback, right? Because they don't fully understand it, but a lot of our community, when I say our community, I'm saying the African American community, has been taught that socialism and communism, these type of ideas are antithetical to their self-preservation, right? You had activists like Angela Davis and I mean these other people who were influenced by white socialists, and they told them basically that like the reason why African Americans suffer, and these are people like I mean these are like people who when my mom was in high school they were coming at kids on high school campuses, in LA specifically, and teaching them this type of stuff, right? And this kind of like resistance, this kind of like agitation to the system and taking over the system, this type of thing. So within our community, we haven't been able to separate the oppression that we've experienced in America by the hands of our neighbors and our so-called fellow Americans to the expansion of foreign policy, the expansion of America abroad, right? So we look at America's expansion and, people say, oh, well, this is like colonialism, tyranny, whatever. And we say, hey, that happened to us too. So we automatically empathize and take the position of the person who we think is in a similar condition to us. But we don't realize that those people that we think in a similar condition to us are not. They're against our system. Like people say, oh, well, America first. Why are we in the Middle East? Wait, are you serious? Do you understand that 90% of all shipping in the world, all goods and services go through shipping, through seas? Do you realize that there's people trying to take control over those seas? Do you realize that the American dollar that all of us benefit from is a process? How does American dollar have value? Because of circulation. So how's American dollar circulate? I mean, one, we have a big consumer base. People buy in America. But more importantly, it's through oil. When oil is traded around the world, it's traded in US currency. So that puts our dollar in circulation with all these barrels and these types of things, right? Because it's the highest currency. So when you talk about Brexit and these other, new currency models, well, your way of life is finished, right? Whatever you have in America it's over. China, Russia, they replace U.S. currency on these natural resources. It's over. The dollar means nothing, and we have tons of debt, right? They control the shipping, right? All these ports, all these strips, all these oceans, right? If we don't have control over that, they hate our way of life. They're communist. They're socialist. They're dictators. So the idea of us having a new president every 4 years is like, you guys crazy? How long has Putin been in power? How long has Khomeini in Iran been in power? So it's just to say that, when people look at the world scheme, they think that America is just a self-functioning thing. And as long as New York is doing good business with St. Louis, and St. Louis is doing good business with Florida, and Maine is doing business in Arizona, everything's fine. No, that it's not all good. It's not all good, right? But we don't know that. We just see like, hey, why are we involved in that? We could that money we spent on this military intervention, we could build homeless shelters, right? We could put more money into schools. People criticize ICE. They're trying to get black people to go against ICE. Do you realize that these immigrants were brought to America to marginalize our voice in America, to marginalize our voting power, to marginalize our kids in education? How many kids have been pushed out of schools because they didn't have enough funding and they had to put them in other places? But they made us believe that, oh no, but we're saving everybody, we're helping everybody, we're bringing. They're not here to help us. That is a strategic design by government officials to marginalize African Americans that were starting to lean towards the right. I mean, towards the right, towards Republicans. And I'm not saying Democrat, Republican, but I'm just saying, like, we have to understand what's going on. So they're removing these people, not for the sake of us as African Americans, but because there's other issues connected to them in terms of a broader issue. But nevertheless, why are we defending that? Why are we defending that? They brought over illegal immigrants into this country and wiped out economic mobility. When my parents were in high school, when my parents were in college, my mom was cleaning houses, paying for her medical school. My dad was coming home during the summer times, working at hotels, cleaning dishes, right? To be able to pay for his tuition in university. That does not exist anymore because now you could pay a Mexican, 10 cents on the dollar. You see what I'm saying? So it's just saying, so that idea of being able to make enough money to put food on the table has been wiped out by illegal immigrants. So that was done strategically. And then now you took out economic mobility. Like they said, oh, well, nobody wants to do those jobs at the Mexican. Why won't they do those jobs? Because they're not worth anything anymore. If it was normal wages, same progressive wages from the time my parents were in college to now, and it never shifted. Of course, you could make some money. You could put food on the table. You could support your kids. And then what happens? Okay, so now they took all those jobs away. They gave them to Hispanics. They gave them to other, who knows types of people. And then what do they do? Okay, so then the next stage is, oh, well, there's no jobs for our youth. So who's the highest unemployed in America? African American youth. We're unemployed in our own communities. We can't be gardeners. We can't do basic things to make some money. Why? Because Mexicans are there, and I'm not anti-Mexico. Okay, someone could hear me, but oh man, you sound like you accent. No, I am pro. I am pro America, and I'm pro its citizens. So they take that out. They take out the economic mobility, and then drugs are in our community. So then you look 24 hours on TV, the doughboy. Hey, I want to be a doughboy. Look at him. He got all the girls. He got the car. He got the change. He got the whip. Oh man, how could I get there? Obviously not through business. So now you got the prison industrial complex. So now you're taking our kids and now you're putting them in jail because you're saying, well, you guys can't work anyway, so you're worth more to us in jail because guess what? If we incarcerate you, it only costs us $50,000 a year, but we could get 150 to 200,000 from the state per inmate. And you know what? We could pack you into a room like sardines and make, maybe close to $1 million per cell. Close to it. 5, 6 inmates, you're close to $1 million. So multiply that. You know what I'm saying? So now the African American doesn't even have value because not only is there legislation that is there to design our limitations, but now you even have us competing with people who are willing to take pennies on the dollar. So again, now am I supposed to look at that and be like, oh man, well, how y'all gonna break up families though? They didn't care about your family when they came over here. They weren't saying like, hey man, we actually marginalizing African Americans. There's like, it's odds. So the point is just saying like a lot of these things we have to think through. And they literally now black people are rising up against ICE. But I'm talking about African Americans. I'm not talking about Haitians. Haitians another group. They came, and then these other people, these black passing people, they come over, have no respect for us, have no respect for our cultures, our communities, and then they want to come and use us in the black struggle as a way to leverage themselves into mainstream society, into universities and all that. But when you talk to them, they'll be like, no, I ain't black. Ask the Somalians if they're black. They'll be telling you, no, we ain't black. We're Arabs. Ask the Haitians, are we black? No, we were never slaves. We fought for our independence in Haiti. Right. So, but again, I sound like if you heard me talk that. So I was telling a group of people, that I was talking these ideas, and I said, you know what, the problem that they have with me, and I was talking to a group of African American people, they have a problem because they can't control me. Now they want to play it like, oh, well, you're just controlled by the Jews. The Jews control you. You're with the Ashkenazi, you're with the Edomites, the whole thing, and they control you. Right? That's what they want to say. Oh, they control you. How they control me? How does it I chose this. I chose this. Right? So there's another aspect. When black African Americans from chattel slavery are in non-black spaces or with ideas that weren't constructed by white liberals in universities, we are somehow Uncle Toms and sellouts. Because I want to carve out my own identity. Number one, the black thing, we could go we I could open the Torah. I can't see that anywhere. I see human beings. I see Ben Adam. And that understanding of what that means over the centuries and centuries, over the millenniums, thousands of years has changed. You know what I'm saying? In terms of definitions by the society surrounding the people. So you want to come to me and tell me like, oh, well, the Jews, they control you. No, no, no. I made my own alignments. We agree. That's why we rock together. I agree with them. They agree with me. That's why we work together. But you want to tell me that like, oh, well, I'm here and they're using me. It's like, bro, why do we have such a low opinion of an African American man that when he goes out and he has his own ideas, that it's a process because he hates himself. He doesn't love himself. Oh, there's a black card. Oh, you've been in Israel too long. We taking your black card away from you. What? That's what I am. You can't take that away from you're in no position to do that. I am a African American man. I should be in jail statistically. I should be on drugs statistically. I should have been killed already statistically. That's where I should be at. My dad made enough money to get us out of the hood. That's it. Other than that, I'm not some A student. You know what I'm saying? Like, I play football just like the next dude, basketball, the whole thing. If I grew up in a different neighborhood, I would have been forced to make certain life decisions, have certain lifestyles because of the conditions I just set out. So I'm a miracle. I represent our culture. That's what I represent. I represent our culture. So do you. So do you. We made it. We're supposed to be dead. And so they want to come to me and tell me because I'm not dead, because I'm not incarcerated, because I'm not using their words, that somehow I'm less authentic. I sold myself. This is the insanity. This is what we're dealing with out here. And that's why it's so important to have clarity, on who we are as Jews. Because the society that was created by Asaph wants me to be black, wants me to be colored, wants me to be Negro, and overall a nigga. That's what they want. I remember Amari Stoudemire, when he was here in Israel, he came to me, he was talking about, I told the story before, and they were talking about like, he started to wear a black hat. He's going to yeshiva. He's dressing like the Rebbe. He's dressing like his Rebbe, not a Rebbe. The Rebbe who's sitting in front of him teaching. We mimic our teachers. That's a yeshiva culture for everybody for over 1,000 years. You know what I'm saying? So that culture of dressing like your Rebbe is what he was participating. So he started wearing a black hat and this, blah, blah. He's getting into it. You see me, he's a car, everybody's doing. But people are criticizing him. It's like, oh, well, why are you dressing like a European? Why are you dressing like a European? They dress in this, blah, blah, blah. And I said to him like this, I said, Yehoshaphat, if you were wearing a skirt right now and you painted your nails red, they'll be like, Stoudemire is free, slay, slay king, slay king. But because he's looking like a Jew who's learning Torah in an institution, they want to come to him and tell him he's a sellout. But if I was wearing a skirt and I'm snapping my fingers and my fingernails are polished and my toes are polished like a woman and I got bracelets on my ankle and I'm snapping my fingers, you know what they'll say to me? Slay king, do you, be you. This is the situation that we're in. This is the situation that we're in. Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon's a huge example. Why? He got different wives. I don't think he could call them wives legally without them arresting him. But he has wives. He takes care of these women. And they spend all day making fun of him. But the dude who ain't got no love for women, he don't care about them, period. He's dropping seed everywhere, no responsibility. I haven't seen any shows against him. Maybe back in the day they used to like expose that on like Oprah Winfrey or something, right? Phil Donahue or Ricky was it Ricky Lake? Used to have the guy who had like all these baby mamas and they bring him on there. But that's not the case. Stexy Red, she's doing videos in front of abortion clinics. She's twerking on quars in front of abortion clinics, bro. This is what we're dealing with. But if you become a lumdish Torah Jew, oh man, you a sellout. You a sellout. You ain't no longer a nigga. I can't call you that no more. You learn it with the white people. So how am I, so this is what we're dealing with. And at some point, you got to make a decision.
You know,
Because the world that go ahead.
shalom, Chief Rabbi. Baruch Hashem, do you think that, because we were having a discussion about this yesterday morning, about, just like bullies, right? How there are bullies in the world. And I use, in order to discuss it, I use the idea of comparing them to the evil inclination, right? And so you have these people that are, they're cheering on wickedness and they're criticizing righteousness. So we say that that their soul deep inside of them, they really want us to win. They're really here. And that's why I appreciate you say that you go to this, I guess, chat room that have opponents to what you're saying, because they really want you to win. They really want you to make it. Toda.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it goes back to that story of the prince and the king and the whole thing we talked about before. But even on that point, you're 100% right. I'll say it in a way, in another way. Hashem wants me to win. Hashem wants you to win. He created these conditions in society for me to transcend, for me to say, okay, this is how you look at me as a man. This is how, like, look at the gift it is to being a Black African American man. Nobody loves you. Like, I was even talking to my mom. She was talking about, ICE and the whole thing and people. I mean, she's a woman. She got a big heart. You know what I'm saying? But I'm thinking to myself, she's an academic. She's in a successful position. But they will allow her to be successful, but they won't allow a guy like my dad. He had to be an entrepreneur. He would have never been able to excel in that system because we're the antithesis of that because we represent leadership. Why does white artists get paid more than black artists? The whole idea is if we empower these black people on any level, they will do something similar that they did in the civil rights movement. So they have to get rid of the father. They have to get rid of the male. We have to be shamed. And they have to empower the women in the community to look at us like, man, nigga, why you ain't making as much money as me? You know what I'm saying? We went to the same schools. We got the same education. Why didn't you work hard? Look at Jonathan and Peter. They worked hard and they made something with themselves. Why are you still talking like this? They made the woman looking at us like we nothing. Right? Oh, I need someone who makes as much money as me. But but the system is set up for the brother to not even get in. He's not supposed to get in. I asked this lady who I was great friends with, Dana Sims, big agent in Hollywood. Maybe I shouldn't say the name, but I said it. And I asked her, I said, why aren't there more black agents, black male agents? Because all the agents I know in Hollywood are all women. That are African American, they're all women. She said, the thing is, there's a big internship process, right? And being an intern, you're working for someone, you're not getting paid, maybe a little stipend, whatever. He said, but a lot of the men in Hollywood are gay, right? And they have like very feminine tendencies in how they act and behave, like in the office and these types of things. And it could be very degrading sometimes. And she told me different stories of like very famous people like saying horrible things to her. And she said, and most black men are not going to sit there and listen to that. They're not going to deal with that. You know what I'm saying? It's like I remember when Kanye married Kim Kardashian, he never experienced that level of publicity of PR, right? That's mainstream PR where like people are following you everywhere. Right? They weren't following rappers around before Kanye. You know what I mean? Before Kanye married Kim Kardashian, they weren't paparazzi weren't following rappers around. Even Jay-Z, they weren't really. You know what I'm saying? And Kanye and many other the hip hop dudes, they start fighting with the paparazzi, like y'all not respecting my space, blah blah blah. They ready to fight. They never had that situation with white actors, with Brad Pitt. I mean, maybe every once in a while you see somebody say something, but Britney Spears, these different people, you know what I'm saying? They never had those issues because it's a different tonality. So the point is just saying, like, when I accept, especially as an African American male, that the entire system is against me 100%, and that being the greatest blessing because I have no choice but to be with Hashem. I have no choice but to put every single thing that I have with Hashem because the world don't love me. Obama was the president of the United States. I'm not even saying he comes from our culture fully, but I'm saying he still looks like us. And to other people, he was a reflection of us, him and Michelle. They said Michelle, not even a man, not even a woman. Obama, you know, they cussing him out. He getting State of the Union addresses. And it's like that's the greatest gift because it's like because of that, I will never fit in. I'm not fitting in nowhere fully. I will always connect with Siddiqui, like the place I teach at in the mornings here. Those dudes are righteous. They're like in their 70s, 80s. They're righteous. They've worked on themselves for 40, 30, 50 years, some of them, every day. You know what I'm saying? So they have a different heart. But the vast majority of people, I'm not going to fit in with. Number one, I'm righteous. So the righteous are not a part of the collective. If they're always a part of a small minority. And then two, I have ethnic differences. Three, and I know who I am. I know what makes me special. It is my uniqueness. So I'm not going to subjugate myself to be something that I'm not. I'm not going to sit up here wearing Strymol and grow and perm out my hair so I can have straight looking peyote. I'm not doing that because that's nothing to do with halakha. That's nothing to do with the Rabbanim. People say, oh, well, why don't you have a beard? Because the Torah doesn't say that. You could. It's up to you. It's a minhag. You grow as long as you want. Right now, I'm not there. So I know who I am, you know, and every day I learn more. But the bigger point is just saying we have to understand this mechanism because this is the basis of our learning. We have to learn the sages. Because what information do we have? University? Tell me what university on planet Earth is giving information specifically to me and my background coming from chattel slavery, my ancestors, who's giving me information to empower myself? You know, that was one of the biggest things by Rabbi Pinchas, Chief Rabbi Pinchas, because I'll say like this, the level of Torah he knows, of a few people know it, okay? I learned with the Rav Berg when I started off, but it was only so much I could learn. Number one, I was living in the frame of as I'm a non-Jew, right? And number two, it's like it was specific things. I mean, I could pick up. My neshama was always holy, so there's certain things that I was able to pick up that gave me strength to go forward. But the thing about Chief Rabbi Pinchas is that when he had Bestina Kadisha, I don't know how much he could do it now, but when he had Bestina Kadisha in the Old City where I'm at right now, he was teaching us how to learn the text of the Kabbalistic sages. When I was in yeshiva, we learned how to learn the text of Gemara. Everyone learns that. Everyone comes to yeshiva. If you go to proper yeshiva, Gemara, morning, three, they call it 3 storm, 3 classes a day, morning, afternoon, and night, Seder, right? 3 Seders, 3 orders a day, right? In between those classes, you have what they call Chevrusa, where you're learning one-on-one with a partner. That's your day, every day. Gemara. But when it comes to the Kabbalistic texts, like the Ari, like the Ben Ish Chai, the Rashash, you know, all these humongous people, Rabbi Kivas, Rabbi Nechunia, all these humongous people. Rob Pinchas was the only one that had a group full of people. A lot of them were African, by the way. Okay, well, it wasn't like to me brothers that were in there. I mean, you had Zakaria who was in there sometimes, and maybe a few other guys that were from America. But the point is, just, Rabbi Zohar, he was there. He's Haitian. I mean, I guess he gets some type of points. He's grew up in America. But the point is just saying there wasn't a lot of people that were giving open classes on the text. It's one thing to know a bunch of Kabbalistic ideas, right? But to be able to go, like even Rav Zion. Rav Zion is a brilliant guy, right? But he wasn't taught a Masorah how to go into that text and to explain those, because if he could, he would. You know what I'm saying? Now, does he understand Kabbalistic ideas? Can he could he understand the spirit? And I'm not downing Rav Zion, okay? I think he's a brilliant guy. I'm probably going on tonight with him, right? So it's no criticism from my end, right? I have a lot of respect for him. But what I'm saying is, as brilliant of a guy is, he cannot open the Rashash. He couldn't open these texts and explain to you what's going on. You guys could probably do more of that now than even him in a lot of ways, right? And I'm putting him on a pedestal saying from our culture, he's one of the most brilliant at the text. And he's inside the text, right? But I guarantee you, if he was able to go inside of the Kabbalistic text, he wouldn't be able to talk about the New Testament. You know what I'm saying? He wouldn't be able to do it, right? But Kabbalistic concepts, Hesed, Gevura, Tiferet, the upper worlds, the lower worlds, this, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I mean, this is like, conversational Kabbalah, right? It's conversational, it's some deep ideas. Maybe he has a Zohar, from the Kabbalah Center, with Rav Ashlag's, commentaries, very clear and brilliant, safer. Like, we know the guys who put it together, right? And it's amazing, right? But still, that's still an entry. Those are entry level tools, right? The Rav Berg has so much love in his heart that he just wanted us to get inside of the text. And then hopefully it'll grab you enough that it'll keep you going. Like say, like Otina is a good example of that, right? Because he learned with Rav Zion, and Rav Zion holds by the Zohar and these different things. But it touched him enough on a deep level that he's like, hey, I need to go further. So that was a Rav's goal, is to find those holy souls and to bring them out of Galut. Jews and people who consider themselves non-Jews, or people who consider themselves Jews, but for other reasons, right? And so it's just an important point. And like I had a class yesterday with a guy Nasi, or was it yesterday or the day before? I think it was maybe the day before. I'm not sure, or maybe it was last week. I don't know. Everything's just moving so fast. I can't remember what days I'm doing these classes, but I think it was for sure this week. But we talked about this idea of prayer, right? And going into the fundamentals of prayer and what it means for prayer and these types of things, because prayer is something that we have to teach our friends, right? Our loved ones, the people in our life. That is the revolution. It starts with, I have the ability to talk directly to Hashem. We're learning deep Kabbalistic stuff. Like, we're going to do a little bit of Ram Call. I get it. We're learning deep ideas, right? For sure. But the whole conversation of transformation of thought starts with teaching people how they could talk directly to God, and understanding that God in all of your experiences is talking directly towards you. That's the start. Second point is re-understanding the Garden of Eden. What does it mean to re-understand the Garden of Eden? The Garden of Eden was a place that Hashem put Adam and Chava into, and it was a perfect reality, right? Everything, they had access to everything that they needed. But there was this Nachash, this serpent, that came and convinced them that it wasn't enough, that there was more, right? So when we accept the Kabbalistic understanding that we all come in this world for a correction, for our soul to be corrected, then we understand that all of us are born in the Garden of Eden. We're born in a perfect reality for our soul's correction. So if I grew up as a black man, I grew up in the hood, I grew up in the suburbs, I grew up, middle class, I grew up really rich, whatever the thing is, rich kids suffer. That's what nobody realizes. The rich kids probably suffer more than kids who are poor, because the kids who are poor have something to look forward to. They have something to fight for. The kid who's rich and has everything, that's it. They get, God forbid, suicidal, right? It's not that many people in the hood committing suicide. You know what I'm saying? Like people may be getting killed because of the drug business, but people aren't like waking up saying, "Oh man, I'm done." No, those are people that are wealthy, right? Who are in middle class environments, the environments many of Black people are trying to get to, right? Those are the ones who get in that despair. But the point is just to say that when we accept that we were born in a perfect reality, this whole concept of ghetto, this whole concept of wealth and who's rich and who's not based off of currency, evaluating ourselves on material items, all these things that create low self-esteem and social control, we realize like, nah, I'm good. I grew up in the hood. The whole world is against me. My dad wasn't here. My mom's on drugs, this, blah, blah, blah. Whatever the situation, I'm using a very dire situation to build from. Because those are the situations they tell us, oh man, that you made it out. Wow. How'd you do? Whoa. Whoa, let's make a movie about your life. Whoa. You didn't do what everyone else did in your environment. Whoa. Right? That's the game, right? So, you take a LeBron James and you're like, whoa, look at LeBron James. LeBron would tell you he wasn't the best baller in his neighborhood. He just made the right decisions, right? Miraculously. But there was other people hooping at his level where he was growing up, right? He got pulled in by the right people, right time, and all these types of things. He showed certain abilities. Same thing with Kevin Garnett. Same thing with all these guys who came out of high school. Kobe, whatever, right? Kobe's playing in a European league when he was a teenager. Same thing with what you call it, the Ball brothers. They were growing up playing ball like semi-pro. The point is just saying that The point is just saying that when we reevaluate life from a Torah lens, with a Kabbalistic lens, that means that every single person was put in the most perfect situation for their soul's correction. Because we're all supposed to transcend from negative to positive, or positive and staying and removing negative, right? To get to the away from the animal soul to the godly soul. This is what all of our challenges are. Whether your parents were billionaires or you didn't have parents, you had to overcome some perspective to get to that place, right? And so when we see the world from that perspective, we can see like, hey, you know what? Specifically, I'm banging on the African American man thing. We're probably some of the most blessed people in the world because we are put in a situation where we have to be completely focused on God and His will. We have to build families. We have to build environment, and that's all we have. It doesn't change for us if we become billionaires. It doesn't change for us if we become presidents of America. It doesn't change if we become outstanding athletes. None of this change. That's not a point of correction. LeBron James is not a point of correction. Okay, he's entertaining. He's a talented guy. He takes a rubber ball, he throws it in an iron hoop, and there's a stadium full of white people there cheering for it. Okay, very good. I get it. The people from his neighborhood can't afford those tickets. Okay, but he's able to do it. Okay, very nice. This guy can throw a rubber ball 50 yards on a dot. Very good. Those are not points of correction. This guy invented this new thing. The company got investors. The company reached a lot of consumers. They went public, meaning people were able to buy into it. Okay, he made $10 billion. That's not a point of correction.
You Rabbi, I think you muted. Shalom, Mark. How was your two B Shabbat Shabbat?
Shalom, Mike. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
How was your two B Shabbat?
It was cool. It was nice. Baruch Hashem. How was yours?
It was good, man. It was elevated. It was different. We did it last year, and this year we just had a lot more intention. So it really worked out well for us.
Baruch Hashem. More intention. That's the goal. Elevate a little more every year. And it's amazing how, even when you read the Torah every year, you see something different every time. So that's some maturation of the soul and intellect sharpening of Oda is getting better. So Baruch Hashem, it's good to hear that. How's your family?
Everybody's well. We're learning more and just we're going through path of the just, and we just and also simultaneously Mishnah Torah, the book of knowledge, book of wisdom, and man, it's just it's like just there Ron and Rambam to when you put them together, man, it's like a powerhouse, literally. A lot of tikkun, a lot of correction.
Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem.
Hey, I know I'm wilding out today, but we have to understand mission because it's becoming so clear to me, like on this spiritual journey, that the real focus of my work, and I think it's our work, is to really empower the men that come from our community, not limiting it to other people. Like we're in India, we're other places, we're there. White people could come through. Everything is it's not racial. But the point is saying that the African American male, or I'm at the level of just, we got to figure out a new term. You know what I'm saying? We talked about this in the past with black, the man that was given that only has an identity by God. Because that's in essence what they're telling me when they say, "Oh, well, you're black, you're African American, you're Negro, you did different things." They're just saying to me like, "Hey, you don't have an identity." Well, I kind of know that I have identity. My identity is connected to Israel. I know that. However, because of the experiences that God has put me through and my ancestors through, I'm in a place where I'm like coming out like a new baby. Like I'm so, like when I say I'm talking about all of us are so pure that we're just kind of like, well, we just know God. I'm talking about before any of this conversation. I'm talking about for hundreds of years in America. Somehow we just knew about God. That's really the question we should be asking ourselves. How did these people connect to righteousness coming out of the plantation? How did they connect to righteousness? Why weren't they in a place? Oh, we say because they went through slavery. Well, so did the Europeans. So did the Slavic people. They're ready for war. Africans put other Africans inside Africa. They're ready for war. They're ready for revenge. Why wasn't that the mindset of my people when everyone around them was still showing rage? So that's the real question. What's going on with that soul that was put into the process of chattel slavery? That's really the question. We're not going to go into that today, but that's really the real conversation. But the point is saying that when we think about our roles, because I'm only working with leaders, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, that whole follower stuff, that's whack to me. You know what I'm saying? Like you guys support, you guys do what you, and it's appreciated and it's needed. But at the end of the day, this isn't like a followership thing. This is like you're getting energy from someone who put himself all the way in and got rid of all the sacrifice just to be in that place of holiness. And I'm just giving off energy to empower. But that's for you to go out and to shape your societies, to shape your communities. And the most vulnerable people are these young African American men that are not giving really many. I'm talking about intellectually. I'm not talking about, oh, because the guy, he works at a job and he makes $100,000 a year. He made it. I'm not talking about that. He's in no different of a situation than the guy who's on the street, selling a eighth of weed. I don't even know if they sell weed anymore. But I'm saying the point is saying that same guy is no different than a guy who's made hundreds of millions. Puff Daddy in the same cell. He in the same cell. Bill Cosby was in the same cell. R. Kelly's in the same cell. So what's going on? God is telling us there's no difference. So when we're learning this, we have to develop methods as we're learning to sit a guy down who says, hey, he looks at you and say, hey, man, you got something. I'm down to learn from you. And you open up a world for him. The same exact world, how we're learning right now. Like I just came in at the end, you're talking about the Ram-Call, the Rambam. You're right. Those are ballistic missiles from God that could wipe out negativity for miles, right? And so it's like bringing people through that process and giving them the gift of the text, right? Giving them the gift of the text is like, come on now, right? Come on now. Like that's what this whole thing is about, is passing on a tradition. This week's Parsha, Yethro. What was Yethro bringing when he told Moshe to establish a system of a court system? He created a mechanism. That was the Sanhedrin. That's the beginning of the whole system of everything, the Talmud, the whole thing, all the teachings. Everything came when Yethro told Moshe to now create a system where people can mitigate and judge as courts isolated from you. And all of those traditions that were expressed orally were passed down. So people had issues with property, people had issues with their wives, people had issues with their children, people had issues, all these different things that come up in day-to-day life. How does God want me to handle it? That's more expansive than the Ten Commandments, right? The sages even debate, did the Yethro thing happen before or after Matan Torah, after they received the Torah? When did it happen exactly? Because that concept is the same. Like, well, if Yethro came and created that system of thought, what were they going off of? When they had these questions, what were they going off of? Right? And so when people come and say, oh, well, the Talmud was created by men, but no, they just organized it. Like Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, who's credited for organizing a Mishnah, he didn't write one Mishnah. He didn't write one. These things came from the traditions that were established by the courts that Yethro and Moshe established in this week's Parsha. And from those recorded traditions on how they litigated those issues, that dynamic, right? That dynamic is what was passed down generation to generation. And they refined it as they had different issues. And it stopped during the times of the Tanaim, after the second temple was destroyed. And then from there, that's our tradition. And then from there, they had discussions. The Gemara comes, and the Gemara is discussing these points in the Mishnah. And then the Gemara discusses, and then we have another group called the Rishonim that come in and say, okay, well, this is what they meant by this is what they meant by this. And that was the impetus of us going into things like the Shulchan Aruch and the Torah and the Beis Yosef, which are halakhic works. We don't paskin by the Gemara. We don't paskin by Kabbalah, right? We do it by the halakha, the books of halakha. So that's the tradition. It was passed down all the way to the court system, to the Sanhedrin. It started down. So the point is saying when we're learning, we have to have in mind the people that we're going to teach. We have to have in mind the classes in the different developmental steps of taking someone from a place of not knowing to a place of proficiency. Right? So they could be a man on their own. And that's a big part of our mission. Obviously, we're here to teach the whole world. Obviously, all of the souls of Israel, we hear, but right now, that has to be a focus, right? The elder, he has a background. He's preaching. He defined himself, said, "Hey, I used to be a street preacher." Okay, but that mechanism can be made holy with the right tools. Instead of the Old Testament or the New Testament, now you got Rambam. Now you got the Shulchan Aruch. Right? Now you got the commentaries. Now you got the Orach Chaim. Now you got all this. Otino has the Kabbalah. All this stuff. We have all this. So it's nothing. It's holy being a street preacher. Just what are you preaching? Right? What are you bringing people into? Is it fellowship? Follow me. I'm some type of unique person, or no? Get in touch with your soul and figure out what your purpose is in this lifetime. To become unique, to become Kodesh, to separate yourself from a whole world that wants you to be a lowlife, that wants you to be a degenerate, that wants you to have no respect for women, no respect for your fellow man, no respect for God, no respect for yourself. And so now I'm going to give you teachings that are going to that's going to contradict all that. And then what that's going to do is going to bring a independent ability for you to rationalize the life around you. This is our work. This is our work. This is my, go ahead, Elder.
And so, Chief Rabbi, let me ask you this question. So, do you think that whenever and you're on this travel, you're on your journey,
Yeah.
and as you progress and you learn more and you come out of those vehicles, basically, okay,
Yeah.
and you understand Judaism more, you're walking in it, but then there are those around you that is really trying to get you to assimilate more. And I think there's some assimilation is good, but I mean, I'm talking about customs. I'm talking about not necessarily halakha or. So the idea is that they want you to assimilate more into that. Do you feel like when a person invests and totally just submerges itself in that and in those customs that really don't pertain to halakha at all, and loses the interest to reach back like you're talking? Do you believe that that's like a way of losing your soul?
Well, the thing is like this, on the customs part, the customs are very holy, right? And meaning that the intention behind them, the unity that it creates, they're very holy. But the question is, are you worshiping the customs? Do you believe because you're eating this particular food in Shabbat that your Shabbat is holy, right? Do you believe because everyone says, "Oh, I like the way that you do that," that's the end of your growth? The customs are great. Like I mean, now I don't even know what's a custom and what's not. This is just what I do. You know what I'm saying? So it's very healthy to emerge into it. It's very healthy to be a part of a community, right? That doesn't mean you lose yourself. That means that you got other cousins, right? You got other brothers. You got other relatives, and they grew up somewhere different, and now you're in the community. So if you go to someone's house, they come to your house. You got your cousin. Now, once you understand, like one of the biggest things, I learned in the entertainment business. In order to be a star, you have to first be a fan, right? You got to know what it is to be a fan, right? To get engaged into something, to want to have the posters of your favorite artist, to know your artist, to want to check on what your favorite artist is doing in this in their life, and old music in this, and if they come in town, you want to buy a ticket. You got to be a fan, because if you're a fan, you know how to be a star. You know what it is to have fans. You know what your fans want. You know how to talk to them. You know how to engage them because you were once that person listening to so and so, right? So when we come into Judaism, it's like we have to in many ways immerse ourselves into that. Like we have to. Now, to what degree this, you got to decide that on your own because there's different levels, right? I mean, there's people who are Hasidish and they're wearing like, low-key stockings and their pants are tucked in and they got the whole thing. So I mean, yeah, you could do that per se, right? And then there's people who are more modern, who dress like I do. They wear suits, they wear ties, maybe not such a long beard. And then you have people who are a little bit more Haredi, There's different levels to it. So you got to decide what level you want to participate in. But the customs themselves are very holy and they're very good. Now, if someone goes into the community, see, the challenges is like this. When you see guys like there's the family, the House of Lev, the people. I mean, I know their last name is Lev, something like this. The Hearts, or you have Nassim Black. You guys are in a similar position because when they converted to Judaism, they already have families, right? So it's a different thing than like say a person like me, Zakaria, and say Yehoshaphat, Stoudemire, right? We came into it relatively as single guys, even though Amari has, his prior existing family. They were still old enough where it was just kind of like, okay, dad's always been on this path and he's just going further, right? But it's not something we have to do, right? We could respect it and participate, but it's still something dad's doing. Zakaria doesn't have kids. Me, I don't, you know what I mean? So for us, we had more of a chance to explore, meaning we had a chance to like date. Dating in the Jewish community is a whole nother reality. Getting married, a whole nother reality. You know, it's so much craziness, politics, there's all these things connected to it. So we came in on that standpoint, as were these other people who came in with established families. It's less of an exploring thing because you have your kids there. And so now you want to fit into a community, right? So that's where it becomes a little bit different because it's like, well, if you're in a community and that's a base dynamic of your Judaism, right? Because you're coming into a community, you want to be accepted in the community. So a lot of the community is based around uniformity, right? So whatever community you're in, okay, like you go to shul, like say you go to shul on Shabbos. Okay, so if everybody's wearing a suit and a tie, you got to wear a suit and a tie. You know, you could do your own thing and you can wear your own outfit, but you know it's different and people aren't so deep, right? I'm deep. You know, I could look past that and be like, hey man, that guy's, you know, he's doing his own thing, let me see what his name is. But the average person you're going to meet in the Jewish community is not deep. They're not Chief Rabbi Pinchas. You know what I'm saying? They're not like on that journey. These are rare, but as Chief Rabbi Pinchas said, he's a B'nai Aliyah, right? These are people on a different track. And there's a lot of people like that. They're just not in American communities. They're in Israel. They're in the old city. You know what I'm saying? They're in random places like this. So the people in America, a lot of them are going to be surface level people. So if you're in a community, you wanna have friends. The community is nice for holidays, for Shabbat, all types of things. It's nice, right? And then you have kids, right? And so the kids also, you know, who they friends with, who they hang out with, all these things. These are big concepts, right? So the aspect of assimilation is 100% an important concept. Now, the thing is, again, my journey was different. I started at the Kabbalah Center as a single guy, being able to explore, was able to go on my own process of conversion, explore it, then came to Israel, able to explore it. I started at the Kabbalah Center in 2003. It's 2026. You know what I'm saying? So I was able to explore, right? So I can say to you, you got to do your own thing and this, blah, blah, which is true. But you guys are responsible for families, right? You have wives, you know, kids. So now there has to be a temperament within that, right? Because every kid's different. Every kid has a different response. The wife is a different response, right? Everyone's different. So you have to manage all these things along with the community, right? And people who may not in some areas be so developed. Some people will be. There are righteous people everywhere, right? But it's just saying not everybody is, right? They're not righteous with each other. Once you get involved in the community, you see there's a lot of issues between Jews. You know what I'm saying? For various different reasons. So there's a sensitivity of if you're going to make that decision and join that community of people, that there has to be like, okay, well, I have to play a certain level of community politics as well, right? Because there's a whole bunch of people involved. If it was just me, I'd be like Rabbi Mordecai, bro. I'll be in Israel. You know, I get my apartment. I'll be learning, figure out how to make money here and there, blah blah blah, and keep learning and see where it takes me. Right? Fine. But if that's not the case, and you have family, you have children, you have all these responsibilities, that's a high level of sophistication. Now the challenge that other people, like I use the Hart family and the Scene Black, in my opinion, because there wasn't such a solid background in learning, the community standard becomes it, right? And if you go too far, you feel like you may lose people, especially if you're financially dependent on the community, right? So that's another factor. What I don't think either one of you guys have to deal with. You guys make your own money. You're not coming into the Jewish community and saying, hey, what can I do to make money with you guys in this environment? Neither do I, to be honest with you, right? So the point is just saying that. So that's another factor, right? So when you're in that dynamic where you are in many ways being supported by the community, like through performances and these types of things, then you even have less flexibility, because if those core people who support you to come to the bar mitzvah and this particular event to perform, if they feel like you are going in a different direction than them, then they may feel like, oh, well, we're different now. He's different. Like for me, like there's a lot of people from Or Sameach that I don't deal with anymore. Not that I was just like, oh, like I had a falling out with them or nothing like that, but the things that I'm doing and my mode of living is different from theirs. So they're like, okay, well, Mordecai's over there now. He's a rabbi now. When I got married, I went on my own thing, right? It was just me and my wife, and we were dealing with what we were doing, but I was able to be insular and to really figure things out. But the point is like, even then, I had to be somewhat sensitive, but because she was with me on that journey, I still had a certain level of freedom, but not as much as I have now, right? And so when I get remarried, it's going to be more in a dynamic of, expressing where I'm at today, right? Because there's different levels of development. So, anyways, with that being said, it's a very savvy thing. It's not just simple like, okay, I'm going to follow halacha and I'm going to do this, that, and this type of a thing. No, I mean, I'm teaching mostly people, the 90 percentile of people that I'm teaching on a daily, weekly basis are not African American. You know what I'm saying? So I'm in both worlds, right? I'm dealing with you guys, I'm dealing with other people, I'm doing all different types of podcasts, outreach type of thing, because that matters to me. There are people who are criticizing me, mostly Black Jews, by the way, who were criticizing me when I first started doing stuff with Zion Lex and the other Hebrew Israelites and trying to talk to them and bring ideas to them. But it was the Black Jews that were going and complaining in the community about me doing this, but believe it or not, right? Which is a whole nother conversation. But the point is just saying, like, so it's not just, okay, I'm gonna, you read it in the Torah and the Tanakh, all the infighting, all the different issues Jews have amongst each other, right? So that's a real thing to this day, right? You come to Israel, it's like it's a real thing, right? And so it takes a very sophisticated mind to be able to navigate all those different pieces together, right? Because if it was just about Torah observant, we would have already had Mashiach. But it's not just about that, right? It's about a whole bunch of other political issues. It's a whole bunch of personality issues. There's a social construction issue. And then we have our own set of baggage of just being Black folks in America in general, right? And dealing with people that are not Black and people who maybe aren't sensitive to the things that we've been through, just because mostly they don't relate to it, right? Not because they don't care, it's just don't relate to it. I mean, they didn't grow up, many people you're going to meet didn't even never really watch television. They never read secular books. They never learned. Maybe their grandparent or maybe their parents who were bought tshuva did, but a lot of the people you're going to meet who grew up religious, they don't know, right? So things that may come out of their mouth, you may be like, well, why would you say that? That's offensive. They're not trying to be offensive. He literally just doesn't know any better. You know what I'm saying? And so all these different things and dealing with kids that have to deal with that, right? That's where a lot of people make their mistake. And this is from other families that are African American that I saw come into the Jewish community. What I've seen on a consistent level is that the parents were not refined in learning, and because of that, they put their kids in Jewish schools, and those schools became the teacher for the kids. And so, depending on what school they went to, and the teachers, and the personalities, and the kids' personality, it could have been a huge disaster, right? So, so that's why I am a big focuser on textual knowledge, because when your kid comes home from school, you're the rabbi. You have to go over the halakha. You have to go over these points in the Gemara. You have to go over these things. You got to teach them. You're the rebbe in the house, right? He may have a rebbe in school, but you're the rebbe in the house. And so that mechanism takes a very strong man who's independent in thought, because a lot of the Black families that I've seen that came before, the kids are not religious. Why aren't the kids religious? Because the parents don't know nothing. The parents took the same perspective that many Jewish parents do, that what they call bat tshuva, and they just send the kids So yeah. So we'll kind of close it out soon. I apologize. We didn't really get so much in the text, but this is kind of the fire, the energy coming out of Tu B'Shvat from my end, right? After the holidays, I'm going to come in, coming in, but it's needed because it's like we're at a new level now. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just saying that you don't have to join what we call the mainstream Jewish community, right? But if you do, you have to go all the way in. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to go all the way in. I guess I always wore suits in a way, but I didn't dress like the way I did in yeshiva, like when I was in LA. You know what I'm saying? Those are all things like either I was going to go all the way in yeshiva and do it, or not, right? Because there are guys who didn't go all the way, right? The guys didn't go all the way, but if you're going to do it, you got to go all the way, right? And there's a lot of changes. I'm here to help navigate, right? I'm here to help navigate. So that's one of the benefits of having someone like me there because I've been through it. I get it. I know the politics. I've analyzed it from many different areas, and then I can help support, right? Making good decisions. But the point is it's saying a lot of people don't have a guy like me around, right? They have guys who are like, ashamed of who they are and other personalities and other conflicts. But the point is that my point to you is just saying that if you're going to go in, you got to go all the way in. Now, does that change you connecting to other African Americans and teaching them things that you? No, you're required to do it. That's the halakha, right? The halakha is in order for it to be learning Torah, you have to have in mind to teach and to practice, according to Rambam. So yeah, you could teach other Jews. You have to teach your children, but you got cousins, nephews, nieces, and best friends and ex-college friends and all these type of things. So you have to teach them too. Not that does that mean they have to become Jewish? No. But you could teach people about God. We haven't really talked very much about being Jewish in these classes. We talked about God in the halakha and our relationship to that, right? So it's not like, oh, you got to convert to be a good person. That's not true. I think it was a great decision for me. But what does it even mean to convert, bro? Like, what does it mean? There's no such thing as conversion. I did a bris milah, meaning I was already circumcised, but I drew blood. I took a bracha. I said a bracha. I made an oath, in essence, to keep the halakha. And I went into a mikveh. And I came out. And I moved forward in life. That's what I did. Now, I didn't have to do that, but I wanted to. Not because I felt bad about myself, because I wanted more. So it's a decision that everyone has to make on their own. But nevertheless, you're still holy. God spoke to Abraham before he was even circumcised. Lech Lecha, the big parsha in the whole Torah. Abraham was an uncircumcised man, right? So it's not saying like, oh, because I don't do this, I'm not. Of course you're with God, but there's just higher levels, and a man has to choose when the right time is for him, right? Well, God came to Abraham and told him. Years later, you have to do this, and you have to do it with your son, and all these other types of things. But the point is just saying like that. That's the Abraham Avinu journey that all of us have to go on and that type of thing. But the people who have suffered are people who have one foot in and one foot out. And another challenge is too is like you don't know how your wife and family's going to react to it. You know what I'm saying? Like everything's cool now, but people change, right? When that extra fusion of kedusha comes in, maybe they're the same person, maybe not. I'm not trying to like scare a person or anything like that, but I'm saying these are all things that a leader has to take in account in how they're going to respond to these different changes. How are they going to be ahead of the change? So they know how to counter it. They know how to talk. They know how to communicate. They can see changes in people and know how to engage in sensitive ways that allow them to feel safe, right? So it's a lot of factors. It's a lot of factors around, as it relates to. There's a lot of factors around as it relates to this transformation. So it shouldn't be taken lightly, and it's all good. I mean, this is high level life. I mean, that's all it is. I mean, it's not like anything crazy. But the bigger point is, as we stand right now, right? Because everyone's doing their own incremental stages to getting to another place. But as it stands right now, the gift of this conversation was that the greatest gift, like there's a famous song by the Beatles, Nowhere Man. He's a nowhere man, whatever. Song, whatever. But it's this idea of like the absence of identity, right? And when you look at the world, the biggest challenge that people have is culture, right? And them worshiping their culture and like being so integral to their culture. But for us, we didn't even create our culture. We didn't even choose to come to America, right? All this was like put on us, and we're just responding to it. And we've been responding to it since the time our ancestors came to this country. And conceivably, we were indentured even in the places we came from before in Africa. You know what I'm saying? So, so the point is saying like, but from a spiritual perspective, where a person's identity shouldn't be culture, it should be his or her relationship with Hashem, how he acts out or she acts out the precepts of the Torah, how she overcomes or he overcomes her Yetzer Hara, right? That that is the only culture that should really exist. Now, if you have ancestries that strengthen that, great, use it, right? You see certain families, they have a history of people keeping Torah. You can say, oh, my grandfather said like this. My great grandfather said like this. Here's a book that he wrote. Here's a commentary that my great grandfather, he's directly connected to me. That means something. I don't have My great great grandfather didn't have the ability to write commentary on the Torah. Not saying intellectually, I'm just saying in terms of space, time and space. He was just trying to live and not get killed by white people. So, anyways, this is just on fire from Jerusalem, from Tu Bishvat, and and I have complete belief in our ability to change the landscape of the world through holiness. And there's no doubt in my mind that everything that we're doing now is going to grow exponentially, and a lot of people are going to be able to benefit from these conversations, what we're doing. But we have to start visualizing ourselves teaching and empowering people and understanding who we're talking to and what level that they're at and what type of information can they handle, and being able to communicate in that way, right? And what I'm saying is the biggest element is really prayer, right? We didn't start with prayer because you guys were already kind of like very advanced in a lot of ways. And so we went in, we had to clean out the text, you know? We had to clean it out, go in the text and say, hey, this is what it is. This is what other people may say. This is what you may have learned, but this is what it is in here, right? So now, we're evolving. So now we're thinking about, okay, so like, OTNL talks about some of his friends that, he went to college with or things like that. It's like conversations about prayer. You don't have to go into the text of the Rambam to start off with, because maybe that's a little heavy, right? Like they're going to say, who's Rambam? Why should I listen to this guy? You know what I mean? But still, the mechanism of creating a place in the house for prayer, cleaning oneself, right, before prayer, having intentions going into prayer, and communicating with the Creator, right, and having times throughout the day where a person does that, right, and so like that, it sounds like a small thing, but that's a revolution, and someone getting used to that pattern and that consistency is that. The elder, has ability to communicate and engage people and could walk up on somebody. Okay, so why not walk up to somebody and say, hey man, let's talk about God. What is God? Oh, he's above and this and that. No, I mean not necessarily. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, he's beyond our logic. I mean, there's no conceptual framework, but to say God is this or that, you know, needs clarity, right? So all of these points are huge, and it could change people's lives, and it could change a community. And I think that's where my head is at, figuring out strategies and how to do things, and even Black History Month. Some people are like, oh, we should get rid of it. No, this is a good thing. How do we make Black History Month holy? How do we create mitzvahs that we do during this month? right? Martin Luther King Day, all these things. How can we create mitzvahs? There's Martin Luther King Day. I consider him a great leader, right? Uh, people try to find shade on him. Same thing with many black leaders. I mean, they were supernatural in terms of what they were up against and what they did. But the question is, how do we make Martin Luther King Day holy? Should we be giving gifts on this day? Should we be having meals? Should we be calling? Because his words were extremely righteous, right? His words were extremely. Ask any Jew, read a Martin Luther King speech. Any Jew, like, man, this guy he was bringing it down. Like, what was he on? So Martin Luther King was holy. The thing is like, how do we make Martin Luther King Day holy? How do we make Black History Month holy? Because it's Black history. What does it mean? Black, the absence of perceived light. So to me, I look at it as open. My thing is, and this is like a level past what we're talking about, but my thing is how to create the intellectual framework in the thinking of the African American where they feel obligated to take back their narrative, that they're not going to allow some other third party to decide who they are and what their placement is in the world. That's what I'm thinking. How do you do that? They got propaganda campaigns, right, for social control all over the world. I'm learning about it. I'm seeing it. So what's a propaganda campaign for Black people to say, like, hey, it's our narrative. We decide who we are, not you. And this is what I am. And you have no say-so on it. And everything you've told me about myself has been extremely unhealthy. And even the people who said that they came to help me, they were just pulling me into another agenda, whether it was an Arab agenda or a white church agenda or whatever, or even say a Jewish agenda, right? What does it mean for me? What is my self-definition of myself? What's the self-definition of my family? Oh, well, my dad was like this and like that. No, but he was, I mean, there's ways to look at it. So anyways, we talked for a while. I apologize we didn't go into text, but it's just like, we need these. We need these conversations because other than that, it just becomes like a study in this and this whole thing. But no, we have to, in the same way that the trees are rejuvenating right now, we got to be rejuvenating. That's the Torah. We're rejuvenating right now, not just in terms of our own personal life, but to see that we are the trees that's supposed to bear fruits for the people around us. This is who we are. And you guys both know that tree and man are a synonymous theme in the Torah and in its perspective, right? So anyway, so the point is just saying that we just got to keep pushing it. You know what I mean? We got to just keep pushing the envelope and keep recreating ourselves. And yes, if we're going to go the route of being in the mainstream Jewish community, we 100% have to go all the way in. At the same time, all the way in does not remove us from personal responsibility with our fellow man, with our neighbor, with our cousin, with our nephew, with our kids and everybody around, our best friends and all these other people. It does not remove that. And as long as you have those two things together, you're unstoppable, right? And the basis of that is learning, more learning, more learning, more learning, going through all the Holocaust. You have Rambam. Just read Rambam from the beginning where he starts to go through it. You're gonna know all of Torah Kula. You know the whole thing. You learn Rambam from the first book of Rambam to the last book. You got the whole thing. That was the whole point of the Mishnah Torah. That he says his position was all you need to do is know the Mishnah Torah. You're gonna know the whole system clearly. So the point is, you got to know it all. I got to know it all. And then within that, there's deeper levels, there's other perspectives, there's the Kabbalah, all these different things. So it's a lifetime of learning. But the key thing is, if we're going to go further in the Jewish community, you have to be a learner basis. Because if not, it becomes idol worship, where your whole thing is like, hey, how do they think about the way we dress today? Do we dress a certain way? Oh, am I talking like everyone else? Am I speaking with an Ashkenaz or a Yiddish type of accent and blah, 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 blah? And that becomes your whole thing, right? You don't want that. Anyways, I know I appreciate you guys rocking with me on this, but hey, we got a lot of work to do, man. Anyways, any Elder, you got any responses on it? I know Ochina was like, man, I'm at work. Elder, you got anything for us?
Yeah, Baruch Hashem. Yeah, it's powerful because Yeah, you're right. We do have to have these talks because, I'm sitting here and I'm like, like we were at at the shul the other night, right?
Mm.
And I'm sitting there, and me and my sons were sitting there, and we're like we're in this shear with this rabbi, and the room is packed with people, right? And I'm sitting there, and it was like, man, look at where we're at right now. It was like it was like it was a just like a, I mean, like not even a reality. It was
Mm.
like it was a very interesting, you know. And if you look at the room, it's all different varieties of people. It's Hispanics. It's just, and it's just like, man, what are we doing here?
Mm.
And the thing is that when Rambam talks about, he said, when he talks about Torah scholars, right? And then there's a chapter 6 in the Mishnah Torah. It talks about surrounding yourself with students, with like surrounding yourself with Torah scholars, surrounding
Yep.
yourself be around righteous people. And so it's like he's saying, listen, hey, within our communities, because he's not, he's not talking about the nations. He's like, look, within our communities, don't surround yourself with people that are not righteous, that's not trying to hold. And and this thing is, because hey, I'm gonna tell you like this here. Realize, man, with your classes and our class, we thought, we were like, man, this is tall in here, boy. This is some work right here. But man, this combined with what's going on at the shul,
Mm.
it's like there's no time to be playing around. There's no time. All there is Torah study, application, Torah study, application, and even your labor, your like like your business endeavors, it's very, very small. And I'm grateful to Hashem because he brought us on this journey. And he taught us, we try to just go out to work at least, twice a week. And our reason was that we want to make sure we keeping Torah, and we make sure that we are, learning Torah. And so it's like we fit right in, but it's like that free time, it's like it's Torah study. It's Torah study. And we love it. We love it. And it's like, you can't this regiment, you're not gonna find people that's not serious about Torah living. You're not gonna find people on this journey that I got a whole new revelation on a lot of prophecies that I've read in the last 10, 15 years. So Baruch Hashem, this is a powerful thing. It's a powerful time frame, and I'm just excited. I'm excited for what Hashem is doing in your life and what he's doing in Otanel's life. And I'm excited. I don't know what the next 5-6 years is gonna look like. I just know that with all this kedusha, it has to be revolutionary. It has to be dynamic. There's no other way.
It already is.
There's no other way. Yeah.
Get you in shul.
Yeah, like, what hey, look, we had coffee at the shul, and I was like, what? Like, it's just it really is amazing. And you know what? You see the pace. When we had 2 classes, right? One started at 6:20 in the evening. This is night classes. All right, but before we got there was classes already going on. All right. And so our class started at 6:20, and then the next class started at 8 o'clock. And we're leaving at like 9, and another class is starting. And I'm like, what is this? I'm like, this is not Greater Good Hope Baptist Church Bible study.
Hey, this is it. And the thing is, I was just going to point it. The thing is, you're in a place of new reality. You know what I'm saying? And it's important that as these things happen, that you say, wait, we prayed for this. We prayed for more expansion. We prayed for more Torah. We prayed for environments. And now we're here. And then we're praying for that next step now, right? But you got to see the steps and see like, wow, this is Hashem's bracha. Me, my kids, these are good people. You know what I'm saying? Like this is a good environment. You know what I'm saying? It's like this is positive, regardless of where the kids go with it, because kids got their own thing, right? They're human beings. But it's just saying, look where we're at. Look what the challenges. Look at our struggle. When I look at my struggles, it's like I got struggles, but these are holy struggles. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm trying to work on getting married. I'm hustling around this. We got to make some more money. All this type of stuff. But this is holiness. The basis of it is to fulfill the precepts of the Torah. And who can imagine a life like this? You could be a guy, the head of XYZ Corporation. All you can do is make some money. And then you find ways to indulge your emptiness with the money you make. That's it. Game over. Harvey Weinstein. Let's go down the list of Jews that are like successful guys in jail. So it's just saying that, look at this guy, Epstein. This guy's a brilliant guy. Imagine what he could have been in Gemara, what he could have been in Torah, what he could have been in terms of the head of an organization, using his intellect to bring, charity to people around the world. Instead, it's the complete opposite. The complete opposite. Epstein, the complete opposite. Right? So it's just saying that what an amazing life to have, that your challenges and the work is all in avodas Hashem, all in this avoda. So yes, immerse yourself, try to do as much learning as possible, and just make that your lifestyle, and see where it takes you. Otinel, what do you got? Can you talk?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, Ruth Hashem. I appreciate the conversation on both ends. Something that me and my wife we talk about a lot because for us being in the Jewish community is something that we talk about. We know we love Kedusha. We know we love Hashem. We love the pace of life with Torah, viewing all things through the lenses of Torah. But we also understand very clearly, like our children, like we don't get caught up on social structures. We don't, but we're Black. We get that. The world sees us as that as well. We want our children to still have representation of identity. Not, oh, you're a Black person, but our culture and what we mean and what it means to be. And it's just like if you was a white person, you're a white American, what does that mean? You're a Black American, what does it mean? So like, our kids going to Jewish schools, it's like, okay, we get that, but we also want that balance where we want our kids to be who we are, grow up the way that we did. So as the elder was saying, in a way of just having, some type of construct, you know what I mean? So it's like for our kids, it's like, how you gonna grow up Jewish? All right, you're Black in the Jewish community, Rob. You were saying like, hey, they don't know no better. I get that, but at the same time, they're gonna know you're Black. You know what I mean? And that's not something you can run from. That's not something that can be, pushed to the side. And that's something that we talk about. Like, how do we make that balance? You know what I mean? Because for Black people, we don't see it's like you're Jewish and you're Russian. No, you're white, because that's the same response that we get in the community, regardless. Damn, you're Black and Jewish. It's like, oh my goodness, like we wear our Magen Davids, and it's like people look at it and they're like, oh, and we don't attribute that to anti-Semitism at all. Like that's not like we grew up Black. Like we know what racism is. We know what bigotry is. Now it's just people like looking at it like we don't agree with what we see Israel being. And that's something like Hashem has made it. If you're approaching the Jewish community right now, your soul is from Mount Sinai. It has to be. Because there's nothing like from our experiences, the world isn't being anti-Semitic. They're being anti, like what they view as humanity. It's like what they see is happening in Gaza, they don't agree with. Simple. Yeah. It's not they don't agree with it. Can it be explained? Of course, yeah, it can. But is there a lot of explanations? No, there's not. You see the stuff with Epstein. From like Rob, you saying being a learned person, we get like that's obviously a non-observant Torah Jew. Most of the Jews that you see in the headlines or running corporations, they don't observe the Torah at all, in the
Zero.
slightest. They use being Jewish as a pass card, as a nothing
It's a
more different
networking.
from Freemasons or whatever. It's the same thing. It's the same
Yeah.
fraternity in a way. They use it in that sense, but the world doesn't see it that way. You're a Jew. So
Yep.
all of you are like this. And then when you see in the religious communities that version, they connected to that. Oh, you're just going. Rather, the religious community is actually basing on the Torah. When Ruth wanted to convert, it was like, no, 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 you don't want to do this. No, 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 you don't want to do it. Because if you take on that yoke, that's not a game. That is not a joke. Your life is not. If you're going to be extremely blessed in life, okay, maybe. But just because you become a Jew doesn't mean you're going to be wealthy, or it doesn't mean you're going to have power and assets. It does not mean that. A lot of the sages were destitute. That's a paradigm shift in thought. Like if you think you're coming over here to be blessed and you're not, that can shatter you. If you're not in it for the right reasons, you're not going to make it. You're going to burn out. So, there's a lot of worldviews that we're approaching cautiously and trying to approach it with wisdom and approaching it in a way where it's like, because I mean, Rob, you've been talking to me for I don't know, I don't even know the time anymore. I mean, obviously, I love Torah, I love talking to her. Most of my conversations is Torah, 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 Torah. That's all I want to talk about. It's the only place that I actually feel whole at. You know what I mean? It's the only place where it makes sense. It's in the Torah. But also, like you were saying, I have to take into consent, like my wife, how she views the world, how she wants things to progress. Is that something that she wants to put on our family? Being Jewish, that's a whole different path. It's a whole different reality. You have to integrate into the community. There is no black representation in the Jewish community. It's not. None. Pretty much zero. So you're going to grow up in a foreign environment. And we get that. That's what being Abraham crossed to the other side. Yes. But are you is that in your DNA for now? Does it not mean you're not a good person? It's just it's that what you want to deal with. Your kids are not going to grow up the way you did. In a way, you can make the balance, but they're not going. Like we grew up in public schools. It's a different thing. It's different. You're getting a different group of people. You know what I mean? So it's just all these things are things that we weigh out, we think about. Like you said, conversations like this are great. And it's a unique. Everyone's on a unique path, and I appreciate it all the time.
And first of all, that's completely honest, and that's leadership. What you're saying right now is leadership. Leadership has to think about everybody that's involved with their stages of development, because you know joining the Jewish community isn't the goal, isn't the flex. It's about being responsible for others and providing for others. Now, if that context expresses itself in a particular community, whether it's a Jewish community or Hebrew Israelite, whatever the community is, right? It has to support your values and your ideas and your goals for what you want in life. You can't go to a community and say, well, what should I do? And that's why the learning and what we're doing in the building allows you to have that freedom. Like, oh, okay, well, I get it. It's good to be in the community. But what's more importantly is me having shalom bias with my wife and not disrupting that, right? She has her unique set of life experiences, her unique perspectives, right? So as I grow and I pass on that energy to her as my wife through connection, intimate connection, that she'll also be able to over time, right? Because everyone is at their own stages. So what you're saying right now is leadership. What the elder saying is leadership, and this is part of the process. Everyone's in the perfect predicament for their soul's growth, right? Me, you, all of us, right? So it's just saying that, like, so what you're saying is universe. But I'll say about the kids, I say the unique opportunity that we have with kids, especially in this generation, is that the way that my parents were raised, like my parents are married, right? And they come from a generation where black people were very reliant on each other. It was a real thing. There was like real segregation. My mom grew up in Mississippi. There were colored water fountains. She moved to California, things were different, but she grew up seeing that as a very young girl, right? She said when she was in university, the professor would say the Negro girl in the back. That's how they spoke, right? So I didn't grow up in that reality, right? I heard stories, I relate, to my parents' experience, but I didn't experience that, right? My dad, did this and my mom did that, and we grew up in different environments. So the way that my kids are going to be raised, I mean, hey man, I got my hands full. I mean, at least you guys are with black women, bro. I don't know if that's going to work out. You know what I mean? Because at least you got that. I'm dealing with other cultures. You know what I mean? And other stuff. And so only Hashem could just make the right situation for me. But the point is just saying that I think the goal is to raise the children to have a mindset beyond imagination, right? And the idea of human potential, right? And seeing how far we could push the mind of our children to perceive themselves. Because even like, you have a kid that says, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? Oh, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a basketball player. I want to be an astronaut, whatever it is, right? In many ways, that kid's imagination has already been took from him and has been put into the working model, right? That's a structure, right? Economics, the workforce, that's a social construct. In itself is not godly. Providing for a family is. But the mechanism that we live in is not a godly model. Is you work and you die, right? That's it. And in another group of people, you work and you die. So that's why in our society, when you get older, you don't even really have value. Oh, put them in a home, forget about it. Put them in a home. You got to work. You got to work. You don't have time to deal with your parents. So it's just saying that regardless of what decision you guys go in, is cultivating a human mind or being a human and finding out what my purpose is in life and seeing that there's different tools, whether it's meditation, whether it's prayer, whether it's study, right? Whether it's charity, whether it's compassion, whether it's patience, and all these things that are the higher parts of our ability to have him. Like Rob Ashlock says, the main difference between the animal kingdom and the human kingdom is the capacity for empathy, right? The human being has the ability to have empathy for things that are completely separate than them, completely far away from them, things that they may not even see, people they may never see, animals they never see, parts of nature that people are crying out for trees, right? Oh my God, how could you destroy the rainforest? I ain't never been there. I'm never gonna go. But how could you do it, right? So that exists. So that and that's just this is just my opinion, right? You have to you guys you made it this far. You continue to go. But my opinion is just to say that, and this is just my goal for my kids. It's not for them to say, "Oh, I'm Jewish. I'm Jewish. I'm this. I'm Jewish." No, yeah, you are Jewish, but that's not the goal. The goal is to reflect God, is to be godly, to reflect God's consciousness, and to be able to live life past race, past ethnicity, past social constructs of wealth and not wealthy, educated and not healthy. Educated is me knowing what matters to me. The kid may want to be a poet. I met this guy. Just met this guy the other day, right? And again, this is like I consider this connection to white privilege a little bit, right? So this guy, good guy, man. I want to chill with this guy. I'm like, bro, you got to come over. Come over to my place. We got to chill, right? Because I always see this guy at shul. We always have good conversations. You just connect to certain guys. He's like, oh man, we got to chill, right? And so he tells me he lives a little bit outside Jerusalem, but he comes, in for Shabbos. He stays by a friend. I said, so where do you live? He tells me, you know what this guy does? He's a sheep herder. This guy is probably 33, 34 years old. He's a sheep herder and he loves it. And he like lives on some farm and they pay like I guess he volunteers on the farm and this and he gets like room and board. It's like some whole like interesting thing. But I'm just saying he's living his best life. Now I don't come from a system that says it's okay to be a sheep herder. You're not making any money. You're in your 30s. You know what I mean? So it's just saying that that's his truth. You know what I'm saying? And so, and there's going to be some girl that he meets, who's like, oh my God, I wanted to marry sheep herding my whole life. You know what I mean? So it's just saying, but I come from a culture that's like, oh man, you gotta be making at least 6 figures. You know, you gotta be doing this, blah, blah, blah. This, the girl, she gotta at least have a degree in this, blah, blah, blah. So I'm unwinding myself, right? I'm unwinding myself. The girl that I married, bro, she's a beautiful girl, younger girl, this, Torah scholar, the whole thing. But there were other things that I wasn't thinking about, right? That became huge issues in our ability to become close and to become one, right? And ultimately it led us separate. But the point is just saying, so that model that my parents had, although it raised an amazing person like myself and my siblings, that's not the destination we're growing in, right? My dad didn't have the resources and the tools. I'm talking about intellectually and spiritually. That I did. He converted to Islam. He had the Quran. I don't know how well he could read Arabic. You know what I mean? I don't think so well. But he knew some prayers, and he knew he had to be righteous and treat people with goodness and raise a family. But a lot of his development didn't come from religion. It came from him, seeking out therapy to work on issues and this and all these different things. And that's what I grew up in, right? But I'm not going to be going to a therapist. I don't need that. They needed that, right? And so, I just think in terms of imagination, whatever that is, there's no fixed model. Again, this is not follow me Torah, right? This is find yourself Torah. That's what I'm teaching. Find yourself Torah, right? Because I'm trying to chill, right? I don't need people like, oh man, no, it's very nice. I mean, I get it. Like, my students are connected, inspired by me, but this is find your soul, find your purpose, Torah. And so from that standpoint, I'm just expanding imagination, or helping imagination, saying like, hey, the black thing is cool and it's something to have pride into. But I think what's more important than the black part is the souls of the people that I come from. The fact that they came into this particular condition in these set of scenarios. I'm talking about from chattel slavery, right? All the way before, all the way in Africa, all the way in other places, right? All the way back to the base of Mikdash, right? Those souls that went on that journey, that's what I have in my hand. The white man who told me I was black, he can't describe that to me. He does not have tools. He has not even observed himself in that same way, right? He just knows he's white and he has more power and there's more of them than it is of us. And that's been the basis of the relationship. They created a democracy. They have more votes than we do. You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing. But I'm more interested in the neshama that was on the plantation. I'm more interested in the neshama that fought in Jim Crow. I'm more, I want to know about the neshama that was in the crack epidemic. I'm more interested in the neshama that was put in the prison industrial complex with gang violence, right? I'm more interested in that neshama than I am how the white man has described that existence, right? And that's all I'm saying. But everybody has to do. So when I think about my kids, just because their mom may be from Morocco or whatever, it doesn't change the fact that that is a continuation of these other neshamot. Because I'm a man, I'm bringing that soul down. She's receiving it. So that's my thing. Now, if somebody wants to articulate those experiences and say, "Oh, well, those are black experiences," I get it. But are you articulating it as a soul that came in for correction? That's why I had to grow up in a neighborhood where people were killing each other, where there was no God and no one was connected. I'm talking about this particular generation, right? And in closing, the people who criticize Israel, these are the same people that are supporting transgenderism. These are the same people that are supporting homosexuality. These are the people that have no issue with drugs being in my community. And even if they say, oh, I don't like that, I disagree with that, but why are you going harder for Palestine than you are the orphans in your own community? Why do you have more smoke for Israel than you do your local government that is
Hey,
supporting the
Rob,
prison? Yeah.
just to jump in on that though, I think a lot of that is like an internal mechanism that Hashem put in the world. It's like, yeah, everyone else, you're supposed to be doing this for real.
Mm.
Like, you're supposed to be doing whatever, but not you. Because if you're doing it, what hope do we have? Like, what do we have if you're doing it? You're the chosen. You're the one that has brought, you're bringing godliness down. You're creating a space for the presence of God on earth. If you're down there, it's like, man, what do we have? And I think, I was thinking about this, even for like for I know I'm not getting caught up on color. I'm really not. It's just it is what it is. You know what I mean? And I mean that in the most positive aspect. Like you are a color. You're a soul. We get that. The outer layers, well, Hashem, white, black, whatever nationalities, whatever you want to call it. For for a black person to convert to Judaism, I think that might be the spark that actually causes the world to stop and go, hold on, why? Because to be black and approach Judaism, there's no reason for you to do it. There's absolutely no reason. For other colors, it's like, well, yeah, it's something material, because like you were saying, in black communities, it's worse in richer communities. You know what I mean? Wealthier communities, because it's like we don't have nothing to look for. Black folks like, hey man, just give me the money, bro. We'll figure it out. Like give all. Yeah, I feel you, but we like just give us the opportunity, and we'll see if we get there, but probably not because of the things we've been through. So it's kind of like for other, nationalities to do, it's like, okay, you went to Judaism, okay, but for a black person to do it, it makes no sense. There's nothing over there that brings you here. There's nothing over there that represents you. It doesn't look like you at all, not even in the slightest. The first thought concept I think people will have would be like, okay, well, you're going from low to high, right? You're going from the lowest to the high in the what people say about Jews. But that's not really true, because if that's the case, why would you go from beloved as a black person, even though we're the most hated, we're the most beloved people on earth by far, not even close. Two, as you look at the circumstance now, at the perception, public perception, Israel is hated. Why would you want to go there? I think that's the conversation starter. It's like, hold up, it has to be something unique here. There has to be something greater. I think that's why I focus on the black experience in that way. It's not, oh, I'm black. It's like Hashem created this mechanism. How does it affect the entire world? How does it affect the world? Why do black people have such an influence? Why do white people have a negative influence? It's not black or white. These are the mechanisms that Hashem created. It's bringing humanity back to that place of collective consciousness and accountability. So I think that's, well, not that part, but I think a lot of the reason why people have so much smoke for Israel is because it's like, I hate y'all supposed to be the standard, and I think it's a subconscious thing. I don't think most of society is like, oh yeah, they're in the text. They don't know. I think it's the subconscious mechanism where it's like, ah, man, this isn't. I think that's why there's so much smoke. And I think you see that, the sages say the purpose of anti-Semitism is to bring the Jewish people back on the right derrick, because without the Jewish people doing a votus to Hashem, there's no purpose for the world. So I think I just wanted to chime in. I didn't mean to cut you off. I think that's
Yeah,
kind
no,
of
no,
the,
I want to hear your
the
points.
onus of
Yeah.
it. You know what I mean? Because it's like,
So, yeah.
if y'all ain't doing it, it's a wrap. It's a
Well, this
wrap.
is on that point. I just wanted to bring up 2 points. I hear that point, but that point, again, you're speaking on a subconscious level, so it's not. I'm not critiquing what you're saying, because I agree with you 100%. When one Jew does something, it's a subconscious disappointment, right? But the point is saying the bigger issue is that if the Jewish people, either the Jews are back or they're not, right? That's number one, right? On one token, they say, oh, well, y'all not the real Jews. They tell me I'm not the real Jew. They tell the Ashkenazis not the real Jew, the Sephardic, oh, well, you guys did like this and you guys. So that's one point. So that's one point. But when it comes to something in Gaza, oh, well, you supposed to be the Jews and you guys aren't living godly or whatever. So now y'all really not the Jews. But the point is saying, but if you are the Jews, if these are the sparks of souls, and the people from Europe, people from Africa, people from South America, people from all types of Middle East, all types of places, they all came back to this place, right? Maybe some people were converts, some people this, whatever. It's irrelevant. If we are the Jews, that means your Christianity lied to you, and that means that there's no basis of Islam. Okay, that's what it means. Right? So when people want to criticize the Jews, they have a problem with God. Okay? They have an issue with God. And then the way to deal with that is it's like if someone don't like you, right? They don't like you, right? They don't like you. But guess what? They don't like you, but they can't say it because, you're a good guy. But as soon as you do that one thing that they don't like, they're like, oh man, let's jump on him. Let's get him. We got him now. I could tell you, man, I don't care, man. He ain't nothing. Always knew he was nothing. Look what he doing right now. But what about all those other days? You never said nothing. That's one point. right? It's like, well, if the Jews are back, that means that means Paul and Peter and all those guys, they lied to you in the name of a Jewish guy and said that there's a new covenant and this person is God reincarnated as a man and he died for your sins and this and blah blah. So that's clearly a lie, because we're about to rebuild the temple. All this fighting that you've seen has weakened the Muslim world to the point that now building the temple is a real discussion on a mainstream level here. That's one. Second point is, if we read the book of Yehoshua, and I'm not comparing this to Gaza, okay? I'm just using it as a criticism of Jews doing things. When the Jews enter the land, in the book of Yehoshua, God told them to kill everybody, and take all the women that were virgins and make them a part of Bnei Israel. That's not me. That was God's commandment to Yehoshua ben Nun. That was his. So social media existed then. You had images of Jews coming and taking the land and killing the people who were there, who were living there for thousands of years and were indigenous and this and the whole story. What would they be saying about the Jews then? What would social media be saying about it then? So it's just saying that we're in a no-win situation because we have to do what God wants. And on top of it, the other nations are made by the other side. They're coming from the opposite side of energy. They're not coming from Kedusha. So how can I go to a person who's going to hate me no matter what? They're going to hate me because I'm shining. They don't even know that I'm Jewish. They just hate my vibe. Pharaoh, Moshe says to Hashem, Pharaoh can't stand my smell. And you put me in front of him, right? Midrashim. But the point is this thing. So this is the thing. So the Jews went into Eretz Israel with Yehoshua ben Nun. God told them to kill everybody. Now, I'm not comparing that to Gaza. Everybody, even the animals. Okay. So God commanded them to do that. But then going back to this other point, if you accept that we're Jews, why are you not repenting? If you could be mad at Gaza and say, like, on a subconscious level, like, oh man, if these aren't the real Jews, hey, Gaza people are dying, yes. But why? Why aren't there 70,000 people killed in Lebanon? Why aren't there, all these people? They're sacrificing their kids. Read the stuff. I mean, again, there's explanations, this, whatever. They are using the death of their population for political power. They build underground cities. The people aren't allowed in those cities, just the fighters. So Israel has to come and take out, they're doing precise airstrikes. What are they supposed to do? Not do it? Oh, well, it's all good. If we kill too many people, hey, people ain't gonna like us, but they could just come on any given day and just kill 1,200 people on Shabbat. Hey, but if we don't remove that threat, but people, there's civilians that are going to die. Why are you not mad at 1 million Russians have died? 1 million Ukrainians have died. 500,000 people have died in Congo. How many millions of people have died in Sudan? We're talking about right now. We're not talking about 10 years ago. We're seeing right now on planet Earth. There's no hills between Russia and Ukraine. Those bullets go straight and they keep traveling. Kids are dying. Women are dying. 1 million people, bro. 1 million on both sides. 2 million people. I think it's 35,000, something like this, 40,000 a week. Not a protest. Because the Jews being dominant in the land is a reminder that their belief system, how you go to church and the Jews are in Israel? Oh, those ain't the real Jews. They Ashkenaz. They from Khazar. They converts. Okay, but what about everyone else? 70% of the country is not Ashkenaz. Okay, most of them are from Africa, Northern Africa, and in the Middle East. So what about everybody else? Nah, but they not really the real ones either because blah blah blah. So the point is the thing. So if the Jews are back in the land after 2,000 years, and the land is fruitful and is blossoming, why are you not repenting to God? Why are you not asking God for the mistakes of your ancestors abusing the Jews on all four corners of the world? Why are you not repenting right now? Why are you not denouncing your fake Christ? Why are you not denouncing your Muhammad? Why are you not doing that? Oh, but look at the kids in Gaza. Look at the kids in Gaza. Bro, you think the Jews want to kill the kids in Gaza, bro? They don't want smoke with nobody, bro. This is not a war society. This is a happy-go-lucky, goof around, eat food, this, blah, blah, blah. The last thing they want to do is go to war. The whole army is full of kids. These aren't like trained soldiers like they got in America, career soldiers. I mean, they have some of those people, but the vast majority of the people are reservists and kids under the age of 24, 25. They're trying to go to parties, bro. I've been here for almost 9 years. They're not built like that. Thank God they got super technology. They don't even want to go to war. You got a whole population of religious Jews like, hey, man, we ain't participating. We ain't leaving the base midrash. This is the spirit of Israel. Many of the people who don't even want to get in the army, they're in Tel Aviv. They're not even religious. They focus on the religious people, but the real a lot of the people who are so it's just saying that, like, what are we supposed to do? You know what I mean? And this is just the reality for all of us. What are we supposed to do? Oh, well, if y'all killing people in Gaza, y'all ain't the real ones. Nah, bruh. Go and read our Torah. We've been more vicious than this in the past. But the point is, we got to rectify the issue. And more importantly, what about all the Muslims that are suffering from Hamas? What about all the Muslims that are suffering from Hezbollah? What about all the 40,000 people murdered in broad daylight in Iran right now? Right now, 40,000. There's 70,000 people dead in Gaza for was it been 3 years of a war? 40,000 killed in weeks, in a week, for protesting. 40,000. You know what that is? You know how many bodies that is? Where are the protests? Where are the pro-Palestinian protests now? Where are they at? Because they don't care. This is an issue with God. This is an issue with God. Oh, but look at Epstein. He was a pervert. Oh, yeah, okay, he was. But what about all the other Siddiqim? You forgot about all of them? What about Amari Stoudemire? Let's throw him into it. He just did a big article. Why are you not praising him? So the point is saying this is how the world is designed. The Ramchal is specific. I'm Israel. The angels are from a place of Kedusha. The other nations and the destruction of angels, they're not. Within the other nations, there are righteous souls that are supposed to join Am Israel. So it's not just an all or nothing. It's just saying that this is the reality that we're put into, and what are we supposed to do? Either we deal with the situation now, or this isn't even about us. This is about Geula. This is about rebuilding the temple. The Muslims control this whole thing. Now they don't. Because of October 7th, they don't control the region no more. It's over. It's over. They're killing each other. Syria, over, gone. Lebanon, over, forget about it. Hamas, forget about it. The PLO, the PA, over. The Iranian regime, over. And now Israel's in partnerships with Syria. Israel's in partnerships with Saudi Arabia, partnerships with Bahrain, with UAE, with Bahrain, all these places, all the Gulf states. With Egypt, we're in partnership with. With Jordan, we're in partnership with. We're saving lives through the Israeli technology in Egypt and in Jordan. Right now, Syria security alliances. So they want to talk about Gaza, a little small strip in the south of Israel. And again, it's a horrible thing. You got babies, they got pictures, they got this, they got the videos, the whole thing. But you ain't seen no videos of Ukrainian white babies getting killed. Those are all white people getting killed over there. Why ain't seen no videos on that? Because they don't sell. They don't sell. But when people who are indigenous and dark and this, and you got a European soldier who's a Jew holding a gun, that image reminds us of everything. You can say, oh, that looks like the Nazis. That looked like the slave master on the plantation, all that. But again, what are we supposed to do? Israel didn't attack these people. I'm here. They didn't attack. People live in Gaza, bro. It's a thing. There's Jews that were going down to Gaza. The Jews moved out of Gaza 2005. They moved out. They said, hey, we're going to make this completely Palestinian. You guys got to go. Those people fought the government to stay. They fought the government to stay. And because they didn't stay, they removed the military presence there. Now, they did control what goes in and goes out because they're building tunnels. They're funneling weapons. As you can see, where do those weapons come from in Gaza? You know what I'm saying? Who's building these tunnels? So it's just saying that these things all existed. And that's why Israel had some level of control, but obviously not enough. And they went out and they just murdered people, put it on TikTok, right? And that's a real thing. So do we mourn those children? 100%. But at the same time, we can't control another society that's willing to sacrifice their children for political power. That's not Islamic. There's nothing about what they're doing is Islamic. Kidnapping women and children, the Quran forbids that. That's what they're doing. These people are not practicing Islam. They're harboring barbarism, Arab barbarism. Killing, bro, when you talk about 40,000 people being killed in Iran, that's their cousins. That's not a separate group of people. That's not Israel fighting against Palestinians. Those are their cousins that they're murdering in broad daylight. Their nieces, their nephews, their second and third cousins. They're murdering them 40,000, bro. Syria, hundreds of thousands of people. Assad gassed them. Chemical warfare, his own too. Now he's hiding in Russia now. He fled. But this is the reality that they're living in. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like in the West, we can't understand that. You know why? Because Crips and Bloods never took children inside of a house and said, we shooting up the house, and if you shoot back at us, you're gonna kill some kids. We can't imagine that in the West. We can't imagine that. The closest thing we got to that is the school shooting. And that's usually by some crazy white kid. We never seen school shootings in the hood per se. We seen drive-bys when people try, but we never seen somebody just walk up inside of a school and just start shooting people just for nothing. We never seen that before in our community. So when we looking overseas, we can't even fathom that some group of people will literally use their population. They will use their population and sacrifice them to gain political power in the world. We can't imagine. There's no way that obviously Hamas has to be something righteous about them. They're fighting against someone much stronger than them, and they're losing. And they have and Israelis, they just don't care, and this and that, and they're just indiscriminately killing people. How could they do this? Blah blah blah. So I get how it looks, but we in the West, we don't understand what real evil is. We don't understand it. Real evil. The closest we could talk about that is the plantation in the transatlantic slave trade. But I'm talking about in modern day 2026, look at what's going on in Iran. 40,000 people within weeks. They cut off the internet. They don't want us to see the dead bodies. There's no information coming out of Iran. There's no internet access. There's no a phone access. So anyways, it's a big conversation. And I know, like you made this point, there's a lot of ways around it, but the reality is when people tell us, oh, well, you shouldn't be a Jew, and as an African American to be a Jew, I don't see there's any other solution for African American. If we're in this world to correct our souls, if we're seeing that we're descendants of Am Israel, and we got lost in the transatlantic slave trade, and we're Tinok Shanishba, and we came into this whole situation not really knowing anything, and we were educated by our enemy and our oppressor all the way through. I don't know any other solution. The church,
No,
go ahead, brother.
Baruch Hashem, I'm glad you went back to that area that we're talking about, because something that Otanel said that I had to find some help for it, because what is helping me to move forward and to progress with my family, and that makes me feel safe and more secure is the aspect of I've got the example of looking at, okay, how can I correct, or how can I make a correction, at least for my family, based off of something that I see that needs to be corrected within the Black community. And so when I'm looking at my community, at the Black community, as a template to correct. And so one of the deficiencies that's within our communities is two, actually. The first one is fatherless households. Okay, so the second one is a high level of abortion. So these are two attacks that is, I believe, that the solution for it is addressed in the prophets, where Elijah is going to turn the hearts of the children back to the fathers or the parents and so forth, right? So as my guide, what I'm using is that, I can join in a community, I can go, but the idea is that my whole purpose for doing it is based upon the leading of what I've read and researched with my fathers. And so introducing my children to reacclimating my children to our fathers is important. And it's very important because it's not that you're necessarily just connected to a community, but the community should be connected to the fathers. And the fathers are the sages. And there's been built a mindset around the sages and around the fathers, especially within the Hebrew Israelite community, that we've been taught to push away from the fathers, to push away from the sages. And the idea is that for me and my house, me and my family, my children, when we go and we move as we progress forward, it's with the guidance of our fathers. So when we talk about the fathers, we're talking about 120 elders. We're talking about Moshe Rabbeinu. We're talking about all of the fathers. And so from these sages, dealing with the lineage that Rambam puts out there, and that's solidified, as we learn from each and every one of them, and we research what they say how we should do things. That's kind of our guide. And so only those that are actually on that same route is that's who we're going to be around. And so with that firm foundation, I believe that we are correcting the deficiencies within the Black communities. And so if we can do that, I don't believe that we're gonna, matter of fact, I know we're not gonna lose ourselves, but rather we're gonna find ourselves. And so when I study and I'm looking at what the fathers are saying, and I look at their sephers and what they're writing, they are writing to Israelites. They're writing to their children. And so there is no delineation from our cultural backgrounds. That's a more modern construct. That's something that colonialism brought into the picture. But most of our fathers, they predate colonialism. And so they were not affected necessarily by that poison. And so today, when we deal with some levels of rabbinical Judaism, and some of the writers and some of the rabbis more modern, they have been affected by it, because that's something that they have to think about. So in really tapping into our fathers is a real guide that I'm using, that I'm finding to be very beneficial for me, my wife, and our children, because we able to pick up and say, oh no, that's not needed. We're not going that route. We're not doing that. Even when it comes to the diet, there's things that are unhealthy. It's just unhealthy practices that we can't involve ourselves with. And through reading Rambam, man, it was confirmed. If you listen, like within the Hebrew Israelite community, for real quick, when we a lot of Hebrew Israelites listen to the teachings of Dr. Sabi, listen to Patrick Dales, the urban master, herbalist Patrick Dales, which I've met. I know Patrick Dales, and from the aspect of he's helped me with my family. And so what they're teaching, you find Rambam teaching the same thing. And so it's like, wow, this is confirmed. This is a connection with our fathers, you see. And so that's the scope that that's how we're moving at this point. Toda.
And it's important to when it's Rambam. Rambam.
Yeah, Rambam. I got to work on that.
I do it all the time. Trust me. Like I'm giving classes now, and you hear people correct me in the back. You know what I'm saying? So I do it all the time. But I'm just saying Rambam. So yeah. So anyway, but the point is, we got to work it out. It's a process. If it's true, it's a process, right? If it's fake, you just do it immediately, right? So everyone's been on a journey. The destination is getting in touch with our neshama, getting in touch with ourselves. And unfortunately, I mean, what do you want with this world, man? This world sat back. I'm saying like this: the world sat back and watched what happened to my ancestors in America. They knew about it. I didn't see no protest around the world for my ancestors. You know what I'm saying? I didn't see, maybe you had a few white people that joined in a few marches, but they went back to their white neighborhoods afterwards. You know what I'm saying? And their kids benefited from all the privileges that were sat there. So for me, that aspect of being a Jew and being in Israel and seeing the whole world turn against us, that's the same wicked world that, you know, they don't care about me. You know what I'm saying? They're not marching for, you know, my second and third cousins that are locked up in prison right now on drug charges on marijuana that now is legal, and the same people incarcerate them and making money from it. So, like, for me, I don't care what they think. You know, they don't care about me, right? And so that's my perspective as a Jew. And then on top of it, the Torah says towards the end of days, the whole world's going to turn against Israel. It's literally happening right now. This is in the Tanakh. You guys probably know Tanakh better than I do. All the nations of the world are going to turn against Israel. We're literally witnessing that. The Jews did not want to go to war with the people in the south of Israel, surrounded. Like, you talk about all the things that Israel did, we're surrounded. Hezbollah in the north, Gaza in the south. You got the Houthis, you know, wherever the hell they are, you know, and then you have Syria. You have all these people their whole focus was destroying the Jews that came into this land. And then we respond, and even before there was even an airstrike from Israel inside of Gaza, they already had the marches already started in America. They already started marching against it. Look at the timeline, right? People talk about it. So it's just saying that, like, this is prophecy. It's not later. The nations of the world are supposed to turn against us before Mashiach comes. There's going to be great war, great calamity. A lot of Jews, unfortunately, the Tanakh says. Now, we can ignore it and say, oh, well, you know what? 1948, it was just kind of like, you know, the Balfour, you know, Declaration, and, you know, this and the British Mandate and the UN and this and the British, the whole thing. Okay, and it just randomly happened, right? Why is it the most amount of African Americans per capita live in Israel? African Americans. There's more African Americans there. I mean, you have the Ethiopians, right? So they're Africans, right? But how do I go to different places in Israel and I see black people just like from my culture? Right now, they second and sometimes third generation, so they're a little bit different, you know. You know what I'm saying? They're not like, you know, the kids in our neighborhood. But the point is just saying all these things are just here, right? All the different fragments of the different aspects of the Jewish body, the soul, right, are here. Now more people are going to keep coming, right? They said this year would be like the first time, I think, ever that there's a Jewish majority. The majority of the Jews in the world are in Israel. I think it's this year, right? And then on top of we go on all this. Why are they talking about rebuilding the temple? They've been here since 1948, but now they're talking about it. So it's just to say that we could look at it as just randomness, or we could see that we are living in the times of the Torah, right? This is like, it's really happening. Like with this whole thing with Iran, they were teaching us in the Zohar that before Mashiach is going to come, there's going to be a great battle between Israel and Persia. This is in the Zohar. I learned about this when I first got involved in the Kabbalah Center. It's in the Zohar. They were talking about this, right? They were saying this. Not the Rav woke up in the morning and he had this thought. No, this was written 2,000 years ago by Rabbi Shimon, by Yochai. This was the Haruch HaKodesh that came down. Now we're going to war with Persia. Now we're rebuilding the temple. Now people from all over the world are coming in. Now the nations of the world are turning against Israel. Everyone hates us. You're right. Everyone hates us. Why? Because the only people who are going to join our nation now, like you just said, their soul had to be on Mount Sinai. This is not a vacation. This is not a vacation. This is the time now, because right after this, when Mashiach comes, there is no more conversions. Now is the time where the most truest people are joining Am Israel, right now. Because it's not about community standard and being a part of some super club. Ain't no super club no more. Nobody likes us, period. Period. Nobody likes us. But guess what? They'd be like, oh, well, we don't like you. You know, you're a Jew. Bro, you didn't like me when I was black and African American, so you can't do that to me. Maybe to that white dude who thought he fit in with the other white people in America, this is a disappointment for him. For me, it's a truth awakening. You've never cared about me. You've only saw me as a second-class citizen. And anything that I did past the pendulum that you set above me, you have rejected it. You have rejected everything about me. You watched my relatives get locked up in prison. You watched them remove money out of the community. You watched them put drugs and guns into the community. You watched the CIA come in and create gangs. You watched that and you didn't care. None of y'all cared, but y'all was listening to the music. Y'all was wearing the fashion. Y'all was watching the movies. But y'all didn't care about me at all. At all. Unless I'm entertaining you. So now you want to come to me and act like I should care what you think. I don't care what you think. I'm from the suburbs. They don't care. They didn't care about us. If anything, we were what they call the chosen black syndrome. Oh, you guys are so different. Oh, your mom's an educator. Your parents are. Oh, your dad's successful businessman. You don't care about us. How do I know that? Because when I was dating your daughter, you didn't like that. You didn't like that. So that's the reality of the situation. So people not liking me, I've been in white society most of my life. They don't care about us. Okay? And they're designed not to. And it's been going on for hundreds of years of not caring about us. We're permanently the other. So what do I got a problem being a Jew? Oh, the people who got the people got the problems right now are the Ashkenazi Jews who thought it was all good. They thought they were white passing. They thought the Holocaust was over. It was something that was behind us. It's a new era. I don't need to be religious. You know, I got my cultural Judaism. I eat my bagel and lox. I got my latkes. I eat my latkes on Hanukkah. And that white man said, you will not replace us. Go get out of here. We don't want nothing to do with you. In Israel, we hate Israel. It's a terrorist country. So now they just keeping it real. They always felt this way. But now they can't help it because we taking over and they can't stop it because this is God's will. Anyways, Baruch Adonai, Leolam, Amen, Amen.